Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. This is Julie Bruns, and you are about to be inspired. I am so excited to share my conversations with amazing people from all walks of life who figured out how to be happy, peaceful, and content doing work they love and making the world a better place so that you can see what's possible for your life. I can't wait to hear what you think. Send me an email and let me know one thing you're taking away from this episode. And never forget, anything really is possible. Welcome to this episode, everyone. My guest this week is Rachel Gitlevich. And Rachel and I met through an organization that we both work for and at and volunteer with and teach with called Female Strong. And it's a cool organization that helps young girls to just, I think, empower them and enlighten them and teach them, right? And so she's a teacher, and I've taught the girls there too. So it's a program called, I'm just going to do a little shout out, Young Entrepreneurs Academy. And it basically teaches high school girls, age girls, how to create their own business and what it all entails. So it's a really cool program. And that's how I met Rachel. And we're here to talk to her today. So thanks for joining, Rachel.
Thank you, Julie. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, it's such a beautiful way we met. I love the way that you described that.
Yeah. So I'm really glad we met. Okay, so tell everyone what you do and how you discovered what the work you're doing now. Was it something you always wanted to do when you were younger, or did it lead you down a path and this is completely unexpected what you're doing now? So tell everyone what you do now and how you figured it out. Start with that.
Yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress. And so right now I would consider myself a spiritual wellness and mindfulness mentor. And so I help people connect back with their intuition, come back home to themselves. So I do that through coaching. I do that through facilitation of breathwork and meditation for companies. And I also do energy healings, Akashic record readings. If people are familiar with that, it's kind of the energetic library of your soul's journey. So I'm getting right into the woo-woo for all.
I didn't know you did that. That's cool. I didn't realize. Yeah, I know what that is. It's really cool. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. And so I kind of grew up with spirituality and consciousness. My mom was my first mentor. She started doing Reiki back in the 90s when people didn't even really know what energy healing was. And so I would get like a little tummy ache and she would do a little bit of energy healing on me. And as I was growing up, I always, I was always a big skeptic when it came to like the energy world and spirituality, just because it's something we can't touch, we don't know. And so I was a big doubter, and I question everything, which I think is a good thing. Show me that it works and then I'll believe it and I'll see it. And so as I started to kind of practice more of the spirituality, it's like I started to notice how my life would change. And so I, again, I went through school the typical institutional university way. And then I started off as an IT recruiter. All I know is all my life, as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to help people in some capacity. And so I did want to get that corporate experience. And I think so many times when people are navigating the entrepreneurial spiritual space, it's entrepreneurship is the way. But I think there's something to be said about it's a both and, because I love working with companies even now and helping bring mindfulness to corporations, because we need both. Mm-hmm. And so I really found myself really burnt out and anxiety ridden when I was in the recruiting space. I worked for a staffing firm, and it's really a lot. It can be really high stress and high highs, low lows, and I just found myself feeling like a shell of a human. I wasn't really sure. I knew I had more to give, and I felt like I wasn't utilizing my full potential. And I started reading more self-help books and getting more into the personal development space. I hired my own coach. And they really helped me realize what I truly wanted for myself in my life. And so my journey kind of started off as a career coach. That kind of felt like the natural progression of going from IT recruitment, where I was helping people through the job process. And then as I pivoted, I noticed I really more so liked the like intuitive wellness work, kind of focusing and using all the tools that I've been kind of putting into my tool belt through the years, and really kind of bringing them to the forefront. So yeah, I had no idea that this is where I would be. And so I'll be turning 30 next week, probably when this podcast gets released. And so it's really cool for me to be reflecting now on how far I've come in these past 30 years, and the things that I've recognized that matter to me and what I feel like is important. And so what really led me here is noticing that, what's most important. And that's like showing up for like myself, like showing up as like loving myself. It's been a big like self-love journey, noticing from where I was, 5, 10 years ago, even a year ago, and noticing the journey that I'm on now. It's been a complete, I feel like I look at the person I was a year ago, 5 years ago, and it's a completely different person. And it's and I've realized like to prioritize joy and happiness and what makes me come alive, and that helps me show up for other people, and so that I can really give from an overflowing cup. I am right, like I am guilty for sure of like letting it go on empty and giving from the empty, but at the end of the day, I've realized, hey, okay, like we are so powerful, and we need to fill ourselves back up before we can kind of give to others.
I love that image of helping from an overflowing cup, giving from an overflowing cup, because people can feel when you're giving from an empty cup. And I'm so glad you've discovered this already at a young age, because obviously I'm in my 50s, and I wish, well, first of all, your mom, I was thinking about when you were talking, like your mom's probably like not surprised at all what you're doing. You're surprised to be here now. And your mom's probably like, I've been talking about this for all these years, all your life. This is why you're drawn to it, because what she was doing all those years ago works and is important, obviously. And you were probably like just drawn to go the other way, or just like go to school and you get an education and then you go get a corporate job like everyone else is, not everyone, but lots of people are told. And so that's probably not surprising. And then you end up here, but you didn't really end up here. You were on a journey, like you said, and you were making discoveries and then doing something about them. It's not an accident. You said, I'm doing this job and I feel like a shell of myself every day. Okay, well, that's definitely not what's something we're supposed to be striving for. So number one, I'm really glad you had your mom to be guiding you all this time, because not everyone has someone like that in their life. I didn't have a mom like that. And also that you are discovering and prioritizing the joy and all of that so early on now. And I want to be clear that it's not just like, go out and do whatever you want to be, that's all that matters. No, you're saying, I'm going to do these things that I can experience more of this joy and this love with and for around people that are the same way. And then I'll have more to give all of those other people in my life that are counting on me for things, or the work I'm drawn to or whatever. It's going to help all these other ways. So I think, because I wanted to make that distinction, because I think sometimes because I have kids that are early 20s, and I think they're just, I'll go to school, I'll get this great job, and then I'll have lots of money, and then I can do whatever I want to do. And that's what it's all about. And it's like, no, or they didn't earn it, and their parents are giving them things that they didn't earn or whatever. And now it's like, life's fine. It's like, no. There's so much more to it. And it's not really talked about, especially I think with boys. So, I'm just glad that there's people like you out there that are experiencing it, talking about it, and then coaching other people to get clear with it now, instead of just waiting till you're 40 or 50, burned out, a shell of who you are, working at a company or in a role that doesn't inspire you at all. And everything else in your life just kind of like, it's like, and that's not really an existence. We're not here to just exist. We're here to thrive, all these other things. So I just wanted to say all that. And I'm glad that you are where you are and working on the things that you're working on. So let's talk about when you changed what you wanted to do and got into the career coaching first. So you realized you weren't happy in this recruiting role and this wasn't for you. What was keeping you, what made you, either successful at that role as you were starting to do those other things, or what helped you make the shift to, I'm going to start this career coaching and see where it goes. Like, so you could be still making a living and, doing well at whatever you needed to do so that you could figure out this next phase. Like, what was it that you were doing? Were you meditating? What tools were you using?
Yeah, I love that question. Thank you for bringing that up, because I feel like, looking back on it, I have no idea. Like, I mean, I do know, but like when I first started out, I was definitely throwing spaghetti at a wall. Like, I thought that I was going to quit my job and like the clients would just come. Like, I'm like, I was, ego, humble, like I got really humbled real quick. And because I did, like, my first client came to me very, very easily and quickly. And it was like, still kind of when I was transitioning out, and I met her in an Uber pool back when that was a thing, where you would share the ride with somebody. And, sometimes you would like get in a car. I mean, that's like so funny to think about back in when that was like, you get in a car with like a stranger's driving you, a stranger's in the car with you, and you're just getting dropped off to wherever you need to go. But anyways, her and I got to talking, and started talking about I had owned the title that I was a career coach, and she was like, I need that. So her and I started working together, like kind of right after I had quit my job. So I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, signs from the universe that like I'm on the right path. And so, and then after her, I didn't have another client for like 6 months. And meanwhile, I'm investing in this, that, and the other different coaching programs, business coaches, and just like throwing my money away, like literally just throwing it in a dumpster fire and just letting it burn. And so I ended up having to give up my apartment in Chicago, move home with my mom, and really kind of buckle down and figure out, okay, how am I actually going to make this happen? How am I going to make this work? And so, yes, I had the meditation practice. I had the tools that, the energy healing tools, the Akashic records. Those are all telling me just like continue to trust, but it was definitely not an easy journey by any means. They talk about your rock bottom. And the thing that really helped me though, even before I had quit my job, was I was listening to this podcast, and the woman, I remember her saying, and this was like, I was taking the bus home from work and, feeling like these like huge bouts of anxiety, knowing that I want to help people in a bigger way. Because the recruiting, it was helping people find jobs in one way or another. But I felt really pulled to like, learn more about like what really lights people up. How do we get to that dream? How do we get to that vision? And so I was listening to this podcast, and, like staying in my job was my comfort zone. I knew I was really good at it, and I knew I was up for a promotion, and things were going really, really well. I had like a bunch of people that I was about to earn like a pretty big commission check on, and I just gave it all away, because what happened was the podcast had said something along the lines of, okay, imagine your life 6 months from now, and you're still you're in your job, and nothing's really changed. And how does that feel? Like, how's that feel in your body? And then now imagine your life 6 months from now, and you go for it. You take that leap of faith and you do the thing that you want to do. And like, how's that feel? And say it fails. What if it does fail? Like, what's the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
And that you don't get to have, like, let's say, the coaching career, you don't get any clients, you're broke or something or other. Will your job take you back essentially? And like, I thought to myself, yeah, my job would, like, even if I probably called them tomorrow and said, hey guys, like, I'd like to come back, they would probably, I still keep in touch with quite a few people there. And that's the beauty of like, not burning your bridges. Right. And so, I felt very valued as an employee there, and they only wished me the best when I chose to embark on this journey. And so that really, really helped me in a big way, having their support, having them be like, yeah, we see this for you, and we want you to like have that and go after your dreams. And if it does fail, like, we're here for you. So
which I love that, looking into 6 months, because some people would say, I was just doing a meditation today about what would you tell what would your, whatever age you are, like 30 or 40 or 50-year-old self, tell that 6-year-old girl, and then look forward. And so you're looking backwards, but then look forward and say, what would your 85-year-old self say to yourself right now, who's 30, 40, or 50? Uh, there's more to it, of course, but my point is, when you do that, going forward 20 or 25 years and going backward, maybe it's not that difficult, but definitely 6 months. Someone would say, maybe in 5 years, it's a lot easier. My point is, it's a lot easier to look 6 months ahead and think about what you're going to have or feel than it is to do years, because you say, well, that's in 5 years. I mean, I want to feel good before 5 years. I don't want to not know for 5 more years, but 6 months, anyone can do that and say, all right, if, like you said, what's the worst that can happen in 6 months? Failure or whatever it is. Or, you could just be exactly where you are now and nothing will have changed. And then you're going to be kicking yourself that, why don't you do something sooner? So that's a really, I wish I, do you know the person whose podcast that was? Do you remember?
It was like life coach school.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
I
a
could
great
picture.
little tool. It's a great tool. I'm going to definitely talk about that when I write the notes for this, because it's something everyone can do. And all you have to do is just think about it for a second. That wouldn't take you days to figure out. You could just close your eyes, think about it for 5 minutes and be like, all right, what will you regret? What won't you regret? Yeah, that's really good advice. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Exactly. And I just went for it. I decided like that moment, like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Like I didn't, and that's why I always kind of preface with some of my clients that I work with too, that are thinking about quitting their job. My situation was, I felt very fortunate. I don't have like a partner, kids, like a house or whatnot. Like, I had an apartment. I was renting. I could no longer afford it. Moved to my mom's, which I was very grateful to be able to have. But,
Mhm.
sometimes people with like responsibility, kids to take care of, they're like, should I quit my job? And I'm like, let's think about this for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's not do anything that like would actually cause you stress to the
Right.
body, right? Because that's the other thing too, is I remember feeling a lot of stress when I got into, I think I was like 10 grand in debt. And that felt stressful in my body. And that becomes an energetic, what we call like an energetic leak too, because when you or say like so for example, starting a coaching business or any business, like when you're starting to look for say clients or trying to sell, like when you're in debt, it almost comes from a space of desperation rather than abundance and flow.
Yeah.
And so that's why I always call like, I'm like really cautious about people that want to kind of like, okay, I'm ready to quit my job tomorrow. Okay, well, let's say, do you have savings? Like how does that actually look? Will you be able to support yourself financially? Will there be somebody that can support you? So let's say you are married and you have like a really supportive, loving husband or wife that can help you out. I always say that I think having support is so, so important. And that's kind of what I had. Like my grandma actually helped me out a ton. Like I would go over to her house. She was actually kind of sick at the time when I had quit my job. And so my mom and I would kind of switch off doing energy work, energy healing. And so there would be times where her and I would be there together. And then also times where I was with my grandma just one-on-one. And she'd always ask me about my business and like, how's it going? And I'm like, yeah, grandma, it's hard. Like it's
Yeah.
struggling. And she's like, how can I help you? And so she would like write me a check from time to time to like help me out. And so again, it's like, it's not like the way that we get ourselves out of the debt. Sometimes it can be inevitable. You don't have to get yourself into debt. In fact, I don't recommend it. But, sometimes when you are investing in yourself, it is okay to like kind of do that. And again, I say that very cautiously because I
Yeah.
don't necessarily say like, oh, like there's stories of like 10, 50, 100 grand in debt. Like we do it to get in, like, we did it when we went to college.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we know that we can eventually pay it off. Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes when we invest in ourselves, it does require a little bit of like skin in the game too.
Yeah. You're also saying to the universe, like, okay, I'm asking other people to bet on me, but I'm not investing in it. I'm not betting on myself. I'm not doing that, making that leap that might be necessary for me to, go to the next level or whatever. So yeah, that's important. It's a good way. Yeah. And because debt doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's just, I'm investing and I know that it's going to come back, because you're saying I'm trusting too. I'm believing in myself. I'm betting on myself. and I'm going to do this thing that's going to get me to the next level. It's kind of like getting an education. And eventually you're going to have a great job because you have, you've put in the time and you have the skin in the game for sure. Okay, so what advice? So let's just say you're talking to some of the girls that we've mentored or taught at in this program, and I know that you've been in the program for a couple of years. I don't know if they ask you questions or if other people that you're coaching, and I don't know the age of the people that you coach. I'm sure they're all ages, but what do you tell them when they ask for your advice or they're searching for a meaningful career, where they can use their strengths, so that they're like, I just want, like you said, they just want to quit my job and do this. What do you, besides let's think about this for a minute, what else do you say about the commitment or the searching they're doing to figure out what the right role for them is?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to tuning in with yourself, your heart, the things that, bring you joy to do. And so sometimes I think people can get really caught up in trying to figure out what their purpose in life is. And I think it comes down to, okay, what are the things that you are just naturally good at? What can somebody say to you and be like, okay, like the things that sometimes you don't even notice that you're like, oh, okay, this is just a part of who I am. And so for me, that like what it took me a longer time to figure it out, but realizing that I do have a very calming effect on people, and like not realizing that that is like an actual skill and a gift. Like I was just like, oh, I'm chill, I'm calming, like that's just who I am. But realizing, okay, well, how can I use that as part of my magic that I can share with the world? And so how can I, because that's like, I think so many times people are struggling with, especially right now with stress and trying to calm down the nervous system. We're kind of always in this fight or flight response. And so I think for people that are trying to figure out what that means for them, it's like, I think meditation has been a really big tool for me on, I talk about coming home to self, right? I've said that a few times, and that's it. I think that's like a really, it can be defined in a number of different ways. Like, what does that mean to actually come home to yourself? It means to feel safe in your body. It means to feel safe in the person that you are, not to look at parts of yourself where you hold shame, blame, or guilt. And like not want to look there. It's like, okay, no, I look at that and I accept those parts of myself. I'm in allowance of those things that happen that I've done in my past. And it's really this like full acceptance of who you are and who you're going to be. And so, and a lot of times in life, as we go through life, as we go through our to-do list, we start to lose track of who that person is. And we kind of we self-abandon in a way. And so when we start to recognize who we are at our core, who we are, this body, this being, that like this life is meant to be lived, we start to figure out exactly what that means for us to be happy. And so what brings me joy is travel. That might, for somebody else, that might bring them stress. Like that might feel like that's not something that brings them joy. Maybe it's, connecting with old friends or so sometimes and so that doesn't necessarily translate into a career path as like hanging out with friends, right? But there is something about like, so then there's something underneath that. So okay, you enjoy like bringing people together. There's something around, okay, connection. So there's some like people need authentic relating and connection and learning how to connect better. So there's always something underneath the things that actually bring us joy. And it's just like, how can we simplify it in a way? It's all kind of coming back to the simple things and what is at the core of our being.
Yeah. No, it's a great way of thinking about it. So it's bringing you joy. So it's possible that you in that role, in that realm, getting joy from it, you could help other people get joy from the same thing that you get joy from, because there's this way that you're connecting with the experience you're having. Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. Okay, so as far as when you look back, so I know that you said you're turning 30, so you have obviously lived a part of your life already in some really important years. Is there anything you wish you learned a little bit earlier in your life or your career that you would have really like made a big difference to you had you known it at 15 or 20 or 25 even?
Yeah, and it's something I'm still navigating. I was actually reflecting on this the other day too, is like, what are the lessons that I've learned so far in these like 30 years? And A couple of them that really stood out to me are like your energy is very sacred. Like we spend so much of our days giving our energy away to different people, different things, our job, our people, whatever it might be. And we don't spend enough time giving that energy back to ourselves.
Mm.
And so that kind of ties into the other one too, is like people pleasing. And that's again another one that I'm still I told myself when 2022 happened, I was like, people pleasing Rachel is she's staying in 2021.
I like
And
that.
but it's still, the thing is too, it's like she still gets a seat at the table. I get to observe her, but she doesn't get to order the full meal. And same thing with like, we're driving on the bus. She doesn't get to drive the bus, like which I've let her do before. And I'm like, no, 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 like higher self, wise self, Rachel is the one that's like in power. That's the one that's driving the bus. She's the one that's ordering the food for the table. But I will hear how people pleasing Rachel. I don't have to necessarily like shun her and make her go away. She's
Right.
always going to be a part of me, but that's a big one that I wish I would have like I wish I tune into that higher self, wise self more often than I tune into some of those inner critic voices. And so people pleasing is a really big one that's played a role where I'm just like, man, if I wasn't in that people pleasing mode, I probably would have done things differently. And I probably would have been happier about that choice if I had been truly in integrity with myself.
Totally. Yeah. I'm just going to share real quick an experience. It just brought up for me. It was a job I was at several years ago, and I was up for, I wanted this promotion, and I told my boss, and okay, we can talk about it, at your review next time. And then it was like, next time, okay, here, I'm ready. Am I getting promoted? Oh no, that's on me. I should have guided you a little bit more. We'll talk about that next time. And then now it's the third year, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do? I've done this, and this is what you told me. So now I'm ready. Oh, I'm like, we know we need to be very specific. And I didn't know enough about in corporate America how to set the stage for that. I thought I did a few of the right things, but I didn't push enough. And I didn't, not demand, because that's the wrong word, but I wasn't, I was more about people pleasing. I'll just work really hard, and then people will just notice, and then I'll get what's coming to me. And my husband, in the last, several months, we would talk a lot about this recently, and we were talking about, settling for what you think what you feel like you deserve or have earned in a certain role or job or whatever company, and saying, okay, I'll just let it go a little bit longer. And women especially, we do this. We're known to do this. Men just, I don't know if it's confidence or whatever, but there's all kinds of studies about how there'll be a job description. There's 10 things that you need, and men will have 3 of them. They're like, I'm a shoo-in, I'm going to apply, right? And women will be like, I don't have all 10. I better not apply. It's crazy. So he brought something to my attention. He said, if you had, think about all the money you lost out on over the last several years because you just kept saying, okay, it has a aggregate effect. It has this, what's the amortization kind of, each year, like just a snowball. And because I didn't, I was worried about people pleasing, and because I wasn't stronger and more confident, and I was doing a great job and I was getting great reviews, I just wasn't, I didn't know enough, and I should have hired a business coach. I should have just done a little bit more research on the topic. And I'm kicking myself now because I lost out on a lot of income over those 4 years. Had I even asked for more when I began that job, I would be already at a different tier. And then you ask for another raise, or you ask for this motion, or whatever it is. And I just said, I'll just keep waiting. But women, we wait, and I lost out. I mean, so did my family. I had a lot of income because I wasn't strong enough or wise enough or whatever to get what I needed, or to go somewhere else sooner, or to go to someone else at the company or whatever. And I'm telling you all that because it's like, it goes back to the people pleasing. Like, I'll just do this, and I'll be a good girl, and I'll do what's expected of me, or I'll just go above and beyond, and it'll just eventually get rewarded. No, it's not going to get rewarded until you say, I need to be rewarded for this, and here's why I've earned it, and here's how. You have to obviously have something to back it up, but you don't do that. Men are better at it. And this is not a male bashing comment. It's just like, I'm married to one, I know. They're better at it. They're just stronger and confident. And here's what we're gonna need. And thank you for giving it to me. Okay. And then it's expected. Women are like, would it be okay? Do you mind if I'm kind of thinking, no, That's not how, this is not serving us. It's not serving us. And I regret it. And so thinking about something I wish I had learned earlier, that was a big one. And I'm not going to let that happen again, because it's not anything I can change it, and it can be better for me in the future. And I lost out on some stuff, and I really regret that. I learned a big lesson, but I'm not going to let it happen again. I've learned it now. I don't have to repeat it anymore. Figured it out, it's big.
Right.
Okay. I have, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's so interesting that, yeah, it's like, we like to learn from lessons once, right? Like, we don't want to keep being like taught the same lesson over and over,
Right.
and be like, wait, I thought I already learned this lesson. It's like, no, okay, learn it once and then move on from it there.
Yes. Yeah. It would be nice. Yeah. You don't have to repeat them. I think we just do because we don't get it. It was a whisper the first time instead of a brick. And then it's like, okay, now it's a brick, or it's 3 or 4 times later. You're like, okay, I can't ignore it anymore. I think we women do that too. We get distracted. Okay, I have 2 final questions for you. You can answer them in whatever way you wish. And I think I know the answer is going to be for this. What's the greatest gift you offer the world every day? And what's one thing you're going to take away from our conversation today?
Yeah, I love those questions. And I would say, and I had to take a moment to like take a breath there. And actually, for anyone listening, let's all just take a breath together. Take a deep breath in through our nose. Exhale fully through our mouth. And so my gift to the world is their permission to rest and relax, and that it's productive to take that break and to rest and relax and show up for yourself, to come home to yourself. And I would say it's kind of 2-part, is that I hope that I show up in the way of that you feel like that you can love yourself, that you feel safe to love yourself. And so I'm kind of shine that light back to people and show them the love that they are, show them that the beautiful human that they are, because the person that I see looking back at me is, one, not only like a direct reflection, but the person that I see has so much magic and so much beauty to give to the world. And, it's not, none of us are here by accident. We're all living through this because we chose to be here in one way or another. And even though life gets hard sometimes, we all have each other, and we all have that moments of where, okay, we feel so alone. And so my gift is to help people feel seen and less alone in this world.
I love that.
And what I'm taking away from this conversation, I've loved hearing you share, the things that you wish you knew. And I have also enjoyed just overall remembering why we're all doing this, I feel like I've shared a little bit about my journey, but also I hope that this resonates with some people, being like, oh, I can actually relate to a lot of what you said. Like, I noticed that when I was talking, I'm like, wow, okay, like that I've heard. I think there's so many things that make us so similar when we sometimes think we're so different.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing you speak about your story and the lessons that you've learned, same thing, I'm like, oh, that really resonates with what I have actually learned too. So again, kind of coming back to helping people feel less alone is something that I'm really taking away from this.
I love it. Yes, we're all connected. And it's exactly why I'm doing this podcast is, I love doing it, because it's like you said, everyone we have more in common than we realize, and we can all learn. You have every day you have a different perspective than the day before. And every time you meet someone new or have a new conversation, there's always something to be inspired by, to be connected with, to remember differently, just because it's a new day, it's a new conversation. Even if you talk to the same person every day for your whole life, my husband and I talk every day, and we're always talking about new things we didn't, remember or had an experience. And then we're talking about old things, we're talking about new things, we're talking about ideas. It's constant. It's why it's so important to stay connected. I want to touch on one thing you said about we're all not here by accident. I read this quote the other day. It's like there is basically about being worthy and being enough, and that there is a 1 in, I think it's 4 trillion. I think the number is trillion, but there's a 1 in 4 trillion chance that any single human being is on this planet. That's what it takes when you actually go back and think about everything that had to happen for you to come into this world and be conceived and then born is insane. And if there's a 1 in 4 trillion chance that every human being is put on this earth, that means that it's pretty special that you're here. And to not be loving yourself and coming home to yourself and feeling like that you matter and that you're important, it's just a waste of being here on the planet. It's not, especially when there's people out there that don't get to be here anymore because they got sick or whatever. You're doing a disservice. You're here. It's special. You're here with the special gifts. You're here to contribute to the world in a way, and it's your job to figure out that way. And if you don't, you're wasting a 1 in 4 trillion chance of being here. You know, I don't know if you knew that statistic, and I've read it before. I've heard it a couple of years ago, actually, but then it came in my inbox maybe a week or two ago. My husband and I were talking about it. This is crazy.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard that. I didn't know the exact statistic, but like, just even thinking back on like the ancestors that had to kind of create and cultivate and like, our lineage of adults, like, our grandparents had to get together, our great grandparents, and then like our parents, and then, then it comes down to us. And so like all of those different little things had to happen in order for us to incarnate here. And I think that's really, really special. And sometimes, it takes like, for some people, it takes like some near-death experience for them to realize that. And, and like something that helps me is really kind of, I've heard this quote being shared, like, okay, like something that we know about our world is it's very unpredictable, especially now. And like, it's like, if we were told we only had 1 week left to live, how would we live life differently? What would we do? Like, would you still do the same things that you do right now? And if not, what would that thing be? What would be the first thing that you do? It's like, somebody told you, okay, you've got 1 week left. What's the first thing that you do? And then you do that thing for that week. Okay, you made it through that week. You got 1 more week. What's that next thing that you're going to do? So like, and that's kind of how I've been really living this life or the past year. Is like, tomorrow's not guaranteed. Like we really have no idea. And so I'm going to really take this opportunity to treat Earth as my playground and, really live my best life. Like as cliche as that phrase might be, it's like, no, live your best life. And
honor that you're here. It's not an accident that you're here. Honor that. So let's just answer one more question for each other. What if you were given 1 more week? What's one of the first things you would do? I'll answer it when you're done, or I can answer it first. I already know.
I'd love to hear from you. What would that be?
I would immediately book a trip to Hawaii and a trip to Italy. And I guess so if I had 1 week left, which one would I go to? I probably would go to Italy, mostly because it's where my mom's family's from. So I've always been drawn to go there and see where, like you said, my ancestors came from. I just know it's going to be a special place. And then the other thing would be Hawaii. Like I would go immediately and book 2 trips. Yeah. If I had enough time to do both, I probably would try to do both in a week. What would you do?
Yeah. Well, and so because I have been like living my life in that way, in that alignment place, like, so yeah, this week, tomorrow I leave for Miami to help some friends out with some events. And then the following week, I am throwing myself an epic birthday in Tulum. And literally, I have curated just like a weekend of like conscious events of like breath work, meditation, and then also like throwing a party with the people I love so much. And yeah, I would probably do some other, like maybe something crazy, like go bungee jumping or jump out of a plane. I've done that already, but I think maybe rock climbing's been on my list. So I would probably throw rock climbing on there at some point or another. But yeah, it feels really good to be in alignment with that. And like I have like a really big like smile on my face to like reflect on that, to just like I have really, it feels good to just, know that like, okay, if I had 1 week left, would I change something? I'm like, you know what? No, I just keep going with like what I got going. So
that's the best. It's the best because it means you're living, like you said, you're living, you're honoring what you want to do and who you want to be. I feel the same way. I would go travel to those places, but I would still have podcasts. I would write, I would connect with people. I would help people, inspire, engage people. I would do it all. I would keep doing it all. I hope I never have to, I wouldn't retire as long as I can keep doing this work. I would never say I want to stop doing the work, because the work is what makes me me. And I'm doing it to bring value, and it brings value to other people, and it brings value to myself. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
stop doing that either.
And the other thing that I would do too is like I would, do my best to like help grant somebody else's dreams too. Like
Mm.
whether that means, helping them give the opportunity, or like that's the other thing too, is like, we were talking about overflow before. And it's like, okay, how can I help more people actually like carry their dreams? So if I had a week left, I'd be like, okay, this is how much money I have right now. Okay, how can I really help this person and this person like
Yeah.
do that thing?
I love
So,
that. Yeah. Or like, I'm bringing you with me, or you're going here.
yeah.
You pick a trip. Here's the money. I'm going here. You go here. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that idea of surprising people and giving things away like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's awesome. Oh, well, thank you, Rachel. I loved talking to you today. I'm not surprised. It was a really fun conversation. And I know people are going to be inspired by what they hear today. And if anyone wants to work with you or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, and thank you for having me on, Julie. It was such a fun conversation. And the best way to get in touch with me, I would say Instagram is probably easiest. My handle is at rachel.gitlevich. So my first name dot last name. Just send me a message. Let's connect. Or log on to my website, rayofconsciousness.com. And if you want to book an intro call with me and connect, we could do that. Or if you want to dive right into the Akashic Records, I have that booking link as well. So
Awesome.
thank you so much, Julie. This has been so
Thank
much fun.
you. Thank you. And happy almost birthday. And I can't wait to hear about your celebration.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. I hope you loved this episode. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, review, and share it. I hope you were truly inspired. And for a little more inspiration, don't forget to pick up my book, Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective: 8 Secrets to Serenity and Satisfaction in Your Life and Career. I can't wait to get you love in your life.